Hello and welcome to How to Talk to Your Kids About Money. I am Melissa Joy, financial planner and founder of Pearl Planning, and I am pleased to be joined by kind of the champion of this webinar, Melissa Fradenburg. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Melissa. Welcome, everyone. Excited to be doing this tonight.
Absolutely. So today we are going to be talking about kids and money. And we are learning on the job on this topic because both Melissa and I are parents of elementary, middle school age kids. You can see on the right, my kids, Gus and Josie. And we talk about money a lot in my house, but I've got a lot to explore and learn on this topic, which I think you'll understand when you hear that Josie, that 7-year-old, asked for an iPad and $1 million for Christmas this year. So she said, you know, Santa can do so many cool things and he can make something out of nothing. And then I'll buy you lots of presents, Mom. But we've been amending the Santa request list and talking about, you know, what other families really need. So, but I love this topic and really glad to be presenting with you, Melissa. Do you want to give a little introduction about your family?
Sure. So my guys are here, my three, I guess, if you include the dog, but we don't talk about money with him. JP is 10 and Jackie is 12. And they really couldn't be more different when it comes to money behavior and spending. My daughter probably still has the first coin that the tooth fairy ever gave her. And every time I go to leave to go to Target, my son hands me the same crumpled $7 and wants me to buy him a $30 headset for his Xbox. So, and that's all the money that he has. And I keep giving it back and telling him Christmas is coming. But we're working on it. We're making progress. And again, I mean, my point here is if you have a child who seems not good with money or that has spending habits that you fear are going to transfer into adulthood, there is hope. As I said, we're making progress, and it really is what inspired me to create this presentation, although I do also teach a course to middle schoolers, and so this is not just for young kids. If you have high schoolers, this may be something where you can learn some interesting ideas as well. So with that, I'm gonna go through kind of the topics we're gonna cover. Oh, okay, just kidding. First, I wanted to share just a little bit of information here about different age groups and what they might be capable of. As far as by 4 or 5 years of age, children are able to understand that they need to pay for merchandise. So it's never too early to start, even if you have young children. Always explaining to them when you're purchasing things, include them on those purchases. They may not be able to understand the different values the coins have or the bills have, but again, it's never too young to start. Interesting statistic here. From a study that was done back in 2015, 84% of teens report looking to their parents for how to manage money. But interestingly enough, 34 of those parents surveyed said that their family's approach to financial matters is not to discuss finances with their children and let kids be kids. So you see,
I just had a conversation with a new prospective client this week, and she's inherited money from her parents, and she's, grown, but she's talking about how, mom and dad never talked about money. They did a really good job with their money, but they didn't pass down, those conversations and lessons. And so one of our goals here, you don't have to get out your balance sheet or open up your checkbook and tell them all the details, but is to remind you to really show your money life to your kids and not make it a secret. Do it at the right time and in a healthy way. But I see that in our practice.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be dollar amounts. Certainly whether you feel you don't have as much money as you would like, or whether you feel that maybe you're growing up with more money, more than you had growing up. It's not about sharing dollar amounts. It's about sharing life lessons and even just things that you purchase and how much things cost. Very important. So that is the first topic we're going to cover, is what do things cost? And then what is something worth? Because that's different from just the cost. Earning versus allowances, impulse buying, and then introducing basic money concepts like compound interest, stocks, and budgeting. And of course, the importance of giving and teaching contentment. So what do things cost? I asked my daughter, who is my 12-year-old, who's a little bit better with money than my son, how she learned how to be a good saver and really make thoughtful purchase decisions. And I realized that I actually take her shopping a lot more, even to this day, with me. And from a very young age, I would ask her to get certain items in the grocery store, even if we were in the same aisle together. And I would ask her to check the price on things. If, kids always do that in the grocery store. I want this, mom, cereal, and just looking at how much things cost. And in fact, I do that online. She has access. She does not check out, but she does look at Amazon if she needs things. I use the term need. We can talk about that. But I will have her add things to the Amazon account and then run it by me. But she's able to see the same item maybe costs a lot more from certain stores. So it really has taught her kind of how to be a savvy shopper. And in fact, because of the COVID pandemic, my kids are not really leaving the house often, and now they fight over who gets to go to the grocery store with me. And I took JP this weekend, my 10-year-old, and at the end I just asked him, I said, how much do you think all these groceries cost, as we were putting them into the car? And he's like, I don't know. And I said, well, what do you think? Just take a wild guess. And he said, $100. I said, you're a little low. And we played the game, but I showed him the receipt on how much everything costs. And he was able to see just how expensive groceries were. I mean, he picked out some cookies that he likes and a cereal that he likes, but these were the basic items that we use on a weekly basis in our house. And I think it was really important for him to see, his eyes bulged out of his head when I told him it was close to $300 in groceries. And then I think he's less likely to pour himself a bowl of cereal and not eat it, right? So, and I did say, that's why mom always gets mad when you guys open a can of soda or open something and don't eat it, because it costs money. So I think it's important to, even if you're not talking about dollar amounts, just getting an idea of the concept that this is the household budget for groceries. I think even at a young age, at 10, he definitely understands that. And I think certainly as they get older, and especially as teenagers start to drive, you can even give them a grocery list and give them a fixed amount of money and have them purchase the items that you need. It's a great life lesson.
Yeah, when we were kids, I'm Gen X. So when I was a kid, you saw money more, right? So my mom would write a check at the grocery store or pay with cash. And nowadays, everything is cards. And so those cards, it somehow kind of hides money a little bit from the conversation in some cases. And so you really need to pull it out with having, specific conversations. I remember seeing my mom clip coupons and bring them to the store. And today, if I go to Plum Market, I just pull up my app and, click the dots of the coupon. So again, that's the seamless nature of transactions makes things easier to spend money, but also it harder to get grasp the concepts of money. I remember going to the bank with my grandmother, and how often do you actually go and talk to a bank teller nowadays? It's rare. You're interacting with an ATM and it's kind of on the way to wherever you're going. So just take a pause and talk through very, very basic concepts. You don't have to get into investing to be teaching your kids about money. You can just talk about balancing the checkbook. What account is this money tied to? Credit card versus debit card. There's so many concepts that seem like just, normal to us that kids may not be seeing, and you just assume that they are.
That's a great point. I still remember what certain things cost by watching my parents pay for them as a young kid,
Right.
Seeing like the $20 bill that bought a lot more than it does now.
Yeah,
But kids aren't seeing that.
exactly.
And as I mentioned, there's a difference between what things cost and what things are worth. And I've come to a practice, my daughter loves to come to Target with me because she usually has something in mind that she wants to purchase. So what I do is if she comes to me with a couple items, I make her think about it. Do you need this item, or is this just something that you want? And really making her think about it. And then if I give them like a fixed amount, say back to school shopping or for a wish list for their birthday. And I did that actually, I gave her a dollar amount to spend on clothing. That's all she wanted for her birthday, her 12th birthday. So I'm in trouble as she gets older, I imagine. But the idea is when there's a fixed amount, whether it's their money or your money, can I get this one pair of jeans, or can I get 5 shirts and this pair of leggings instead. So the idea of really making them think about, if I get this video game, I'm not going to get these sneakers that I also want, or whatever it is on their wish list, giving them the opportunity to choose between those items, but what does that cost? There's a limit to it, no matter what that dollar amount is, that it's this or that.
I love that. And I think that making decisions in a safe way so that you don't start to make financial decisions with consequences as a 16, 18, 20-year-old where you're off on your own and you can really dig deep. Give, some room to learn with a safety net, but also, the opportunity to make mistakes. And then talk about decisions, review purchases that were the must-have thing for the birthday. Have they picked it up and used it in the last 3 months? So, kind of revisiting decisions of the past is also helpful.
And I also will do, I will tell her that she has to spend with her own money if she wants to get some things, but then I'll make her sweat it out. She'll even get in her own line with her little wallet. And then at the end, I'll say, I'm not going to have you buy your own shampoo. If you need this great smelling Head and Shoulders conditioner, I'll get it for you. And so I do make her think, because I do feel that if it's her own money, she's more likely to really just put the things that she wants in her cart. So that's a great practice with teens and tweens as well. Make them think you're going to make them pay for it, even if you're not. And this is an idea, certainly I've tried allowance. I don't pay a regular allowance. It's not a terrible thing if you do, especially for older kids who maybe have transportation, whether they drive themselves to school or other things that they may need money for. The average, this is a little dated from 2012, amount for a child between 13 and 17 is $15 a week. And then the average amount for a child under 12 is $6 a week. I have found that chores don't get done any faster or more of them by paying an allowance. And so we basically have a system that, as a household member, just like how I will cook dinner, my husband takes the trash to the curb every week, whatever it is, you have certain jobs because you're a member of the household. That's not to earn allowance. But again, I do purchase things for my kids that are both needs and wants within limitations. What I have found, though, is teaching kids the idea of earning money. And this can be done at a younger age. This doesn't have to be when you're old enough to have an actual job, but the idea of when a child asks for something that they really don't need, to make them earn that. And it really gets them thinking, one, the concept that for the rest of their life that you're going to work to earn money, but also, again, thinking about what that item is worth. So last week, the new season of Fortnite came out, and my son wanted a battle pass. I believe it was like $10 or $11. And it's just close to Christmas. He's gotten a lot of stuff. So I said, well, what are you going to do to earn it? And he thought about it for a little bit, and he listed off some things that he could do. And one of the agreements that we had was that he was going to empty the dishwasher for the next 4 nights, walk the dog at least twice. And these are things that he will do when I ask him to do them. But he had a certain list of things that he had to get done. So on the next slide, I believe I shared a picture of him doing those things. And there he is with his Fortnite going and his LED lights. I know a lot of tween parents are now dealing with the lights that are going up, but that concept of this battle pass that was so important to him, he had a lot of chores for 4 days that are extra and above what he would normally do. And he wasn't happy about it, but I could see every night he was really thinking about, was it worth it? And if he kind of hemmed and hawed when I said, okay, it's time to empty the dishwasher, and remember that battle pass, he was kind of rolled his eyes and thought about it for a second. But I have noticed that he asked me for V-Bucks again. And then I said, what are you going to do for it? And he just walked away and hasn't mentioned it again. So it definitely stuck with him. Again, he's my one that I'm working with really to get this concept of money, but it's teaching them, one, that they have to work for items, and two, to really think about, is this worth it? Because if it's somebody else's money to just get a battle pass and they always get it when they ask for it, then it's different.
And I've done a little bit, while we're experimenting with a little bit different system, we do have the kind of kids app cards that are like debit cards where I can control what money I put onto their cards, and I have set up, for me, the challenge with allowances or earnings was always that I have trouble keeping track of, oh, it's Sunday, I need to give you $2. And again, like dealing with physical money is not typical. Teaching them a wallet, then they lose it, blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't feel like the modern way of teaching money. So
And let's be honest, you rarely have cash. That's always my problem.
well, I know I just went to the ATM this week and they gave me hundreds. So I was like, how does that even help? So so I have these debit cards and it's automated. There's a cost to, setting these up, but it's automated that they get a certain amount each week. So for Gus, it's $5 and for Josie, it's $3. So not a huge amount of money. And they can earmark the money in their accounts between spending, saving, or planning to invest it or give it. And I can fund, let's plan to go find a charitable donation. My kids really like cats, so maybe it's the Humane Society or something like that. And so Gus, when my goal is, instead of then when, it's like, I want this app or this at the store, we can use their money. And they're just getting a regular habit of seeing the constraints and limitations, and that it's not never ending. And so that's been an interesting new challenge. I'll have to report back on success or failure. I'll plan to write a blog about that over time. But, we're going to do Christmas shopping that way too. I'm going to put some money on those cards and then ask them to go and make decisions about gifts for family members so that they can experience, a little bit of autonomy in decision making.
Yeah, no, and actually in research for this presentation, I decided to do that as well. As I said, I'm not paying a regular allowance now. I might once we set the system up, but I do want to have them to have a debit card because, again, cash, and we usually just deposit their cash in their bank accounts, but it would be much better to have some sort of automated system that would teach them to make decisions on those different aspects.
And I get the notification when they spend. So yesterday I got notification that my son had downloaded Minecraft onto his computer. So that's a nice way to, kind of stay in the loop about what's going on. And then we can have conversations about where that money went.
That's great. Impulse buying. So this, even though my daughter is a little bit better with saving money, she is more of my impulse of, we see something and she needs to have it. And I do this myself. So I have to teach myself, do I really need it? But this can be really important for teaching the concept of setting goals. So if they see something, and whether it's a video game or a dress for an event, in some cases you may need to buy it on the spot or it won't be available, but if you're at a store where they have an online version, you can, even if it's something you feel that they need or that it's a reasonable request, to teach them about, let's think about that. This is a nice dress, but let's look around and see if there's something better that you want before we purchase this one. Just mark it down, remember where we saw it, and you can buy it at a later date. And it's teaching impulse control. It's teaching, that you don't always get instant gratification. And then also, again, that goal setting of, this is more expensive than I planned on spending for this item. But you can save up your own money for it. And again, there are certain exceptions to this, but this concept, again, it's not about teaching kids, don't expect them to be perfect. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to, impulsively want items and ask for things, but teaching them to save for it and wait. Because how often, I know myself, Melissa, I don't know if you do this, where you put things in your cart and then like a week later, I'll see it in there and I'm like, what did I even want this for? I can't believe I was going to buy this. I'm so glad I didn't hit purchase, right? Because I changed my mind. So allow kids to have that time to really think about if that is something that they want to purchase or that they need to have.
I think so much of what we focus on with giving financial advice to adults is on the same concepts: impulse control, patience, not overspending on big purchases. Or waiting for big purchases. If you move into the brand new house that you had to pull everything together for, and the kitchen needs a remodel, could you wait a couple years because it makes more financial sense to wait. And for some people, it's a need to remodel, and for other people, it's a want to remodel. So if you can instill those concepts again, it's the safe space. I do think there's value to saving for big purchases, and a big purchase for a kid may be, it depends on the kid. It could be a particular game, it could be a piece of electronics, or getting a pet. There's a variety of things that are bigger that you might have to work for over time. So it's not a 4-day kind of agreement, but it's a 6-month, kind of work towards something that can be an extraordinary advantage when you grow up and you do need to make decisions where time is really either can be your friend or your enemy if you're extremely impulsive or quick to, kind of pull the trigger.
And along those lines too is, again, sharing not necessarily dollar amounts, but experiences or your money behavior when it's good money behavior with your kids. And to that end, we bought a new house and our kitchen is circa 1982. If you didn't notice the tile in the background when my son was loading the dishwasher, and we are not remodeling the kitchen right now. And my kids have said, this kitchen is yucky compared to our old house. And again, just talking to them saying, we just purchased a brand new house and moved and spent a lot of money, and we're going to wait at least a year before we do any kind of remodel to this kitchen. And so sharing that, like your process and your reason why you make certain purchases or don't, I think is really important, even if you're not talking in dollar amounts or that kids are of that age where they would understand the dollar amounts for those items.
That is an important, that storytelling of your experiences with money is critical because, at least for me, my story has been a money journey. So I was the kid of divorced parents, very different kind of financial safety nets between mom's house and dad's house. And I had to, learn from the school of hard knocks when it came to my own money decisions. Fortunately, I think the best, part was that I was always willing to work, and working and being able to earn money is huge. And, you can be the best investor in the world, but you need some money to invest. And so telling the stories, not just of, what's happening today, especially if you're, very successful, but what's happened over time, or your struggles, or the stories of your family, like the genesis of your family's success or the values that you have. All of those are so critical to kind of laying the foundation of a meaning for money that's more than dollars and cents, and hopefully helps your kids to make good decisions that would make you proud and would be in context of kind of the family legacy of what money is.
And Melissa, you touched on this with the app or the card that you're using for your kids.
Green light.
Yeah. And I actually put that in this presentation a little bit towards the end. I mentioned that, but this also, we just gave away a piggy bank like this at one of our Pearl planning events. We had a contest, and I think this is such a neat concept, whether you have an actual piggy bank, but the idea of what is money earmarked for? So whether it's Christmas time and they, family members give them cash or gift cards or a whole lot of stuff, right? And they're thinking about how they're going to spend it, what they're going to buy. It's important to talk about saving a portion and spending a portion, donating, the idea of having these buckets. And then as they get older, the concept of investing, especially, which we'll kind of touch on how introducing that to kids. But this is really an important thing that is a lifelong habit of thinking about, I've earned this, or I've been gifted this, how am I going to allocate it? And Melissa and I every day see people who are, our age and even older that don't know how they're going to allocate it or don't necessarily allocate wisely. So Melissa, if you want to touch on anything with this.
Yeah, well, I would just mention that there's some great opportunities to talk with your kids about each of these categories. So, in the real world, you don't just have money that you spend. When you grow up, you need to have savings and emergency reserves. So that's always nice to talk with your kids about, do we need money for a rainy day? Or it could be that you want money on hand for something you didn't know was a possibility or opportunity. When it comes to spending, having control over spending versus just seeing a shiny object and needing it. And then for giving is an extraordinary way to build empathy. A lot of professionals that deal with people who have extraordinary wealth say that teaching to be charitable and giving is a great way to teach people to be good stewards of money. And I think, if you did a family charitable giving activity, whether it was adopting a family or making a gift where you decide together on what you're going to give, those are great activities, especially at this time of year. And then on the investment side, if your kid has any earned income, so like you're getting into the stage where they, are working at the local Dairy Queen or have a job at the car wash, whatever it is, if they have earnings where they're going to file taxes, they could contribute to a Roth IRA. They don't have to be 18 years old to do that. So that's a great way to start talking about investing. It's extraordinarily powerful to start early. And sometimes for parents that have the means, they may match the earnings of their kid up to a certain amount so that you could kind of get the funds to start it, but not say, hey, tough luck, you can't spend any of the money that you're making working. If you're not able to do that with your kid and you are doing a little savings for college with a 529 plan, perhaps you'd want to talk about investment returns and what you're saving in that type of vehicle. So that would be a way to not, kind of reveal your retirement plans, but have a nice account to talk about money with your kids.
Yeah, and even in some cases with saving, you can even offer them a match, whether it's a small match. That's a good way to encourage savings, right? So what's in it for me kind of concept, if I save it, not only that opportunity cost of had you saved some money from your birthday money from family, maybe you could buy the battle pass or the game that you wanted. So that idea of why we save, but then putting a little sweetener in, because adults often put money away in savings for that interest that they can earn, as well as when it comes to investing, they're hoping to make money on that money, which helps them to put more away for the future. So certainly nothing wrong with that, encouraging that behavior. And again, all of this is all about teaching behavior and getting them in the habits of making good money decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So the second to last part here is really just teaching some basic money concepts. And certainly you do not have to be a savvy investor or a financial planner to have these conversations with kids, but make it fun. And explaining compound interest, which sounds complicated, but really it's one of the basic principles when it comes to investing and how it works, as well as some of the downfalls that people have financially. If you look here at simple interest, now a 50% interest is not something that we typically see, but for this example, it really shows the difference in dollars here. So if you were to get simple interest on $100 of 50%, you see that every year you get $50. It's a fixed amount on that initial amount you put in. With compounding interest, if you put in $100 and you're getting 50% interest, the next year, you're getting 50% interest on $150, not just $100. The year after that, you're then getting interest on $225. And you see that over the same time period, the difference between what would be $250 is $337.50. So again, this would be the first concept kind of into that investing and interest conversation. But it's not just when it comes to investing, because compounding interest can work for you or against you. So when you're saving and that is compounding, that's working for you. When it comes to things like your home mortgage, your auto loan payments, credit cards, that's also compounding interest because you're being charged interest on that amount that was already charged interest. And in some cases with credit cards, that can be compounded daily or monthly, or, it's something.
Payday loans are another example, which is just outrageous. And you never want to get into.
Exactly. But again, we don't have to get into all the different things, but by teaching them this concept of how it's not just, if a credit card has 18% interest, it's not just straight 18%, it's compounding on that amount. And that's how people get in trouble. And you actually end up paying more for an item that may be on sale that you don't have the money for now. And it's important to teach these things as kids are younger, because at age 18, they're going to be getting credit card offers. So even if they're not exactly financially responsible or you're still paying for college, and giving them some money to spend. If they feel like they don't have enough money to buy what they want, they could conceivably go out and get a credit card at 18 and start racking up the credit card debt. So again, this is really like a stepping stone concept that can talk about both, again, investing, and then also just the everyday financial things like taking out a loan on a school loan or a car or a home mortgage. So that's really something that I talk about as like that first kind of step into money concepts once you get to that age.
Yeah, and I would look for possibilities if there's education, like in high school, personal finance courses or classes. In Dexter, where I live, there actually is a personal finance class it's an elective for high school students, which is a great class. I've gone to speak there before. So, and I just talked to a kid who was interested in financial planning and learned about it in his class, in that class. So Melissa goes into her kids' school at earlier ages and talks about money concepts. So look for opportunities to learn. I take the compounding interest concept even further, and my suggestion to people is that financial planning is the compounding return of good financial decisions. And the earlier you can learn about those decisions and be well versed, you don't have to know everything, you just need to know the resources to find out. Google or your neighbor aren't always the best place to get advice on money. So knowing reputable sources is helpful. And we try to do that with some of our content and presentations like this.
And actually this next one is something that I do with the elective for middle schoolers. And we actually have a stock simulation. So they pick stocks that they think are going to do well over the course of the 6-week course, and there's a contest with a prize at the end. But the idea, there are certain programs you can use or apps where you can do this and really keep track of it. But just talking about what is a stock and having them follow one that's important to them. I think all kids know what Amazon is these days. And then for my son, he's very interested in video games. So a stock for him that he is interested in could be like EA Games. Or my daughter, Christmas wish list has a lot of Lululemon. So that's a stock that maybe she might be interested in. But again, making it fun for them. So just talking about, what the stock price is at, what they think, what companies might do well or that they like, and having a conversation about it. If you want to get more advanced and actually, I know some adults will purchase a stock for their children or, within their account and let them follow it and see how much money they're actually making. But that, is taking it to a level that's not necessary. Again, we're just introducing these concepts so that when they become an adult, they're not foreign concepts.
I love that. I did not, even though I work in the investment world, my first day at work, I had no idea of any of these concepts. So getting a head start is always fantastic.
Absolutely. And then we already touched on this a little bit, and I put the little app icon here for green light. And certainly it is, if you're going to use the app, and as Melissa does, have like a monthly regular or weekly regular allowance and really keeping track. But you can even check with your local bank, even if you give them a debit card to their own account. I don't suggest doing one to yours. Open up a bank account and have some sort of card system where you can also still track their account and get notifications when things are purchased. So having that responsibility, and again, that ability to make mistakes and maybe spend more than they thought by using a card in a controlled environment where there's only a limited amount in the account and you're also getting notifications is so important, because again, once they turn 18, regardless of their maturity level, they will be able to access their own credit card and then destroy their credit if they're not responsible with it. So that's
really, or build it. Yeah,
exactly. Or build it. And that's the thing. Are we going to have the concept of building credit? They're also able to get a head start on that by having their own card and figuring out how that works. But again, even talking to them about your job and how you earn money. Have you ever asked a kid in elementary school, do you know what mom or dad does? It's always interesting. You get interesting comments back about what their job actually is, but they are interested in what it is that you do. So explaining how you make money, doing what you do, I think is just an important and interesting conversation to have with your child. Again, even if you're not talking about dollar amounts. And it's important. And it's important. It'll be very helpful for you when your kids go to college and decide what major to pick, right? So maybe just thinking of nobody knows what they want to be when they grow up, and they may change their mind several times. But by explaining to them kind of how you've made decisions, and even explaining your failures on maybe jobs that you had that didn't pan out, can be so valuable to kids.
Yeah, I'm biased, but I really think that, you know, in today's day and age, it's like get your kid into every single activity that's possible. And I really love, and I'm biased toward kids that also have had part-time summer jobs. It's hard to fit them in when you're, you know, in travel sports or clubs. But I really think it's invaluable, you know, learning that not every job is, you know, sometimes entry-level jobs are not that fulfilling. Not to say that they won't be over time, because increasing autonomy as you kind of move up the food chain, things can become more fulfilling. You know, my kids, I have a lot of flexibility because I'm a business owner to bring my kids into the office. And I want them to see me at work. I want them to understand when I'm away what I'm doing. You know, that I am working hard for the family to provide for us. And we've even set up like a little kind of side gig for my son. I just have him take out the trash at my office. When the weather's better, he rides his bike up from our house to the office, which is about a mile away. And he has a list of, you know, kind of chores or jobs. You know, we don't do it every week, but it's a way for him to feel responsibility and accountability. And I give him a very small, you know, kind of pay for that. And he also stops by the Dairy Queen that's next door to the office. But I really want him to know the concept of work and, you know how to have a boss and know how to have coworkers and really value that, you know, the ability to work and kind of earn your human capital is extraordinary, and really important for people to understand.
Absolutely. So yeah, encouraging to get a part-time job certainly is something that I will be doing. And if they're too young to actually get W-2 income, it could be walking a dog for the neighbor, or helping
Babysitting.
out. Yep, babysitting. My daughter unfortunately had terrible timing. She wanted to start a babysitters club with her friend like now with COVID, and I was like, no, let's not start that now. But yeah, I do encourage that generally. But it starts at home, and then when they can do odd jobs for other people. Now, you touched on this, Melissa. I love the fact that you are allocating some funds on these cards for them to buy gifts. So I think the idea of giving, so often the idea of with money, giving money to charity, I think it starts at a young age with giving gifts. And I know I love that feeling almost more than I love getting a gift that I really like, of giving a gift, right? To really surprise somebody and make their day, and see their face when they open up a gift that's unexpected or, you know, so thoughtful, is that gives that feeling. And I think kids so often aren't involved in the gift giving, even in the family. I mean, occasionally they'll do the, you know, the gifts at school at Christmas time, like the world's best mom. And those are great learning opportunities too. But I actually sit down and have a conversation with my kids this time of year, and I say, what do you think Dad would really like? Mostly because I don't really know what to get him, but sometimes they have really insightful things. But just to see their face and get so excited when he's opening a gift or when Grandma's opening a gift and they know what's in there, that really starts out the concept. And then the idea of charity, you mentioned that your kids really like cats, so that when they think about, you know, what to donate to, I think that is important to get them interested in something that they can relate to, or that they really appreciate. And I got my kids to, after we adopted our dog from a dog rescue locally, they decided that they wanted to save more dogs, and that wasn't in the card for us in our actual household. So I explained to them how we can actually give donations to this dog rescue so that they can find homes for other dogs like Cody, who, you know, need a second shot down on their luck. So they actually decided to have a lemonade stand to raise money for the Compass Dog Rescue, and they ended up making quite a bit of money And we took the cash and wrote a check to the charity. But they gave out little dog treats. We were on kind of a thoroughfare there with lots of dogs walking by, and they did drink a lot of the product, so we didn't have as much lemonade to give away. But it was the thought and that concept, and they just loved it. They were so excited about it. Another thing is my daughter is really into sewing. So when COVID first happened and there was a shortage of masks, she ended up sewing a bunch of masks. She found the pattern online for the right specs for cloth masks, and made them and donated them to local nurses and people who needed something to put over their N95 masks. So that's how she made those. And she would spend hours. I used to have to tell her to, you got to go to bed now. She's like, I got to make 3 more masks tonight, Mom. So again, it's not so much about a dollar amount. It's this idea of giving, and it's something, keeping it fun, something that they're interested in. And then sharing your charitable, I know, as you mentioned before, Melissa, to sit down and really say, okay, we are going to make some charitable contributions. What are some things some charities, some organizations we want to support, and involve them in that process. Again, even if it's not a dollar amount, it's the concept behind it, which I think is so important.
At my church, they don't do the giving, like the giving for the kids, like the kids go down to the kids' time before the stewardship time. And I brought it up when I was a trustee, no, we need to have the kids bring, 50 cents or $1 if their family is willing to, so that they can get that concept of, a gift. It's a real part of money. I remember that from being a kid. But there are so many great examples of when you can get your kid involved, whether it's, Girl Scout cookie sales or a fundraiser for school, or just thinking about something that's important to them, and having conversations about what's going on in the world and what matters to you and your family, and how your kids might want to help. It does really tie back into money and responsibility.
And then I think this goes hand in hand with that giving back. I think it's important, especially if you are raising kids who maybe are more privileged than you were. And I know for my husband and I, our fear is just that, are we raising grateful kids? Do they appreciate what they have? So I think the concept of teaching contentment versus, you're not a parent if you haven't heard so-and-so just got this, or so-and-so's mom bought them this, right? Or they got a brand new car for teenagers, and maybe you're driving an older model car. So the concept there has to be about reinforcing, we're so lucky because we have this. It's not so much about what others don't have, although again, that idea of giving as they get older, especially for high school age children. I know I'm involved in a local charity and they need to have community service hours, and there were some high school age kids that were helping with a home renovation project for a charity that I'm involved in. But the concept there is to see that even if they feel they may not have as much as some of their friends or their peers, or with social media, scrolling Instagram and seeing all these luxurious items and makeup and stuff they may not have, the idea of reinforcing what they do have and being thankful for it is really a money concept. That it doesn't seem like one, but at the end of the day, that is really important to encourage as far as needs and wants, and being thankful for what you have.
We receive so many external signals about what we should want or need, that in many cases we let the rest of the world or social media or Instagram influencers define who we want to be or what we want and how we want to consume. And you are a beautiful snowflake. Everybody is different. So are your kids, right? And so what brings you contentment and satisfaction is not based on anyone else's definition, but as adults who are busy, as kids, we don't get a lot of time to practice and exercise learning what is enough. You know, either we live in a kind of scarcity mentality of fear or an abundance mentality, which is just more, more, more. And so this concept of contentment is something that we talk about in many of our conversations, not just about learning about money for kids, but with people in general. How can you kind of undo the societal expectations and decide what's right for you? Along with that, you know, stuff and things, we've talked a lot about purchasing things, um, sometimes don't bring as much satisfaction as experiences, time with family and friends. You know, there's much, sometimes more special meaning for those types of things. So try to introduce that concept to your family as well. And, you know, talk about how you invest for travel or trips or time together, and experiences as well.
And again, this is a money journey. So as I have admitted, even with experience, I am learning on how to work with my kids, and you got to be patient. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes is the way that these things go. But again, these are good life skills. It's not about, you know, having them be more grateful or want less things next month. It's reinforcing good behavior and creating this habit of good financial decisions or good money concepts, and it will pay off in the long run.
Yes, thanks so much for coming, and don't be a stranger. If you have questions or we can be of assistance or there's concepts you want to talk to with your kids or your kids have questions, we just love to be a resource of the community. So thanks so much for listening and have a great night.